appreciate you coming out to the festival today, the Film Festival 2024. This is our director's panel, and we are going to discuss the craft of directing. So we're going to invite Talia, who is our moderator, to start things up. Good. The panel will be about 45 minutes.
Hello everyone, my name is Talia Kraus, and I'll be moderating. Thanks so much for being here. So the first thing I'm going to ask you guys to do is to introduce yourself and tell us which film you directed.
Thank you for having us here. I'm David Jaco. The film that I have screening in the festival is Hello Goodbye. Well, that's the short name. Hello to your first day and goodbye to your last, which is Hello Goodbye for short. And yeah, that's me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Andy Curry. I'm the director on Driven Out.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Mike Brown. I'm the director, writer of The Celebration, and I look forward to the screening on December 9th.
Hi, my name is Stephen Weinzierl. I'm the director for the short film The Halloween, and it actually was just here on the opening day, so I'm not sure what day that was. Already aired.
How have you evolved at this point in your career?
I think for this project, what was a big thing for me was embracing the collaboration process, particularly with my DP. I'm used to just kind of taking the lead on everything, even the like visual cinematography side. DPs in the past that I've worked with, not that they weren't good or anything like that, but it was usually just me kind of telling them where to put the camera, what I want to happen within the frame, and these kind of things. And I had a similar approach for this project as well. Because also I had the intention to just shoot it myself at first. But once I brought my DP along, John Charles, he kind of just was proactive in having his own input on like the kind of like we had visually as well. And that was the thing that I kind of had to just work through, and it was a surprise, you know. That was my first time kind of going in depth with the shot list or something like that with another person for a project that was my own. Because I always see what the movie's gonna look like in my head, and it was, you know, I had to embrace how somebody else saw it and kind of just take a step back in that sense.
With Driven Out, I was not the writer on it. I was only directing it. And I felt we had such a great script, and I wanted to do it visual justice to what was on the page and develop an idea for it that could pay it off and enrich the story and take it someplace fresh and beyond what was just on the page. So the process was pretty intense. I wrote a very lengthy treatment for it. I went over that treatment with the writer and producer to make some decisions about how we were going to approach actually making it. And it was also quite a long production. Most of the stuff I've done in the past has been a lot of commercial work. You're talking about like on-day shoots, maybe about crowd, but still you're on 1 or 2 day shoots. This was 3 days of physical photography with a pickup day and a couple extra shots down the road. And in our 3 days, we had 63 shots that we got in 3 days in multiple locations and setups. It was a really intense, really incredible experience that it just does not happen without a very strong team of people that are aligned to a vision to make something. And we started with a great script, a strong vision, and that was what lined us up to be able to achieve it.
I'd like to echo what's been said about collaboration. Collaboration, I've learned, is very important throughout the filmmaking process. I collaborated with my producer and cinematographer, my producer Margie Merritt, my cinematographer Justin T. Davis. Even though our shoot was was only a 3-day shoot, we met through several months prior to the actual production. So pre-production and planning was very important. And we had a micro budget short film, so working through budget constraints was also a challenge, but it also forced us to be creative and adapt to those budget constraints to work through any challenges that we had. So, but was fortunate to have a solid crew and cast. I worked with a casting director named Anisha Green, who was wonderful and helped me find the perfect cast for this film. So all those things, finding the perfect cast and crew to collaborating with them to bring the project to fruition was very key. So I would say collaboration again is very important, and working through budget constraints, just staying creative and adapting to the process to make sure that you bring the project to fruition close to the vision of the script.
Could you repeat the question?
I sure can. It was twofold. So, through the making of your short film, what have you learned, and how have you evolved at this point in your career?
Yeah, it's tough. So I'm a commercial director. So, I went to film school. I did all the low budget stuff. But then I got into, creative directing and then just full on commercial directing. I've done a lot of music videos, a lot of big campaigns, worked with some really big agencies. So my budgets were always pretty big. And I was able to kind of get a lot of what I wanted. So there was definitely a challenge when it came to doing this, because all that goes away. You have no more money. You can't just ask for certain things and get them. But what's been really nice is I was able to use all of the connections and all of the people. So to mirror sort of what they're saying by being collaborative. Like everyone that I work with over the years in commercial, I brought over to help with the short film. And that was amazing, because not only did we all get to work on something that we were considering ours and not working for someone else, it was a way for me to trust and know that okay, Derek's gonna nail this and he has this all day long, and we know what we're gonna do at casting. I do a lot of beauty work, so I hired one of the models I hired a model for a job, and she came in, and then I really liked her, so I was like, I wonder if she can do this too. So she's in a beauty spot for me, but then I booked her for this job as well, and she was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm like, you have to take a huge salary, cut. So she went from making, a giant chunk of money to pretty much nothing. And, but she was amazing. So yeah, it was really interesting to feel like I teleported back into my film school days. And yeah, but it was great. It was great. Again, just knowing the right people is huge in making something like that happen.
Your actress, she really shined under your direction, so you chose.
That was Carrie, yeah.
Yeah, Carrie.
Yeah, she was wonderful. And again, she came in for a totally different role, making 10 times the amount. And she jumped in and yeah, she was amazing.
Was touched upon by a few of you in your answers, but what has been some of the challenges, specifically in making this project, and how did you overcome them? How did you pivot?
Challenges for me. I think the obvious is always budget, money, things like that. Particularly, like I mentioned before, my intentions were to make my short in a very minimal way. I had success doing that previously, and I adopted a new philosophy in my approach to short filmmaking, because prior to a few years ago, all the shorts that I had made was a big crew and spent 100, not 100, but 1K plus on the budget and stuff like that. They didn't really turn out the way that I thought they were going to turn out. And then at one point, I made a film, probably spent $500 on it, and I was the only person on the crew, and there's a few actors and things like that. And it was great. I thought it was my most successful thing at the time. So I was trying to take that approach again for this movie, just kind of like, I'll shoot it myself, and I'll do whatever I need to do, and I'll reach out to whomever I need to reach out, only if I need them, yeah, like I mentioned, once I brought my DP along, John Charles, like everything kind of like elevated for the better, for sure. But it definitely put a strain on me because it's like, okay, now you're responsible for this amount of heads that are going to be on set, and the really cheap idea I had of shooting one scene, he's like, nah, let's shoot it like this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do you have the money to do that, I didn't budget to try to do all of this other stuff, but I think somebody already mentioned, like, you make connections, you ask for favors, and it's also just people kind of trusting in your idea, maybe. I don't know if people really trust in your idea. Maybe it's just like you're a friend, and you're like, yeah, sure, whatever. But regardless, you get all these people on board, and like even the day before the second day, the first day was like really easy because it was all exteriors. You're not spending any money on the first day, but it was pretty short. But the second day was our big interior day where you need lights and everything. Like just even the night before that, I was like, damn, do I have the money to shoot tomorrow? Like, to pay for this thing or that thing, but you can't just be like, all right, we're not shooting tomorrow. So many people are on board and you feel that pressure of like, kind of like letting these people down, or these people that saved the date for you, and now it's a wasted date or something like that. But no one sees these things on set, because when you're on set, especially if you're the director, you gotta like keep your composure and keep your cool and that type of thing. But yeah, I know that, like I said, to sum it all up, it's an issue everyone has, obviously, budget, but that, I think that was the standout thing for me, just my experience dealing with all of that.
I actually also work in advertising. I'm still full-time job. So to do the film, it was, I had a full-time job. It's a demanding, sometimes awful job, but so very fun. Advertising can be a pretty rough place for anyone who has artistic aspirations in one way, shape, or form. But you meet amazing people. It's like the land of misfit toys. Like you meet all these like really wonderful folks. And I think that was part of the secret that we had that unlocked a lot of the things that we did as well. We had a lot of incredible connections that were excited about this project, that we had a great script, we had a great treatment, and when we showed those things to people, they got excited about it and they wanted to get on board. And so then, they're on the ship. Now you gotta steer. And so I think one of the things is just you have to trust the process and believe in yourself that you're making these decisions and other people are behind you to do them. I think it's really important to just take a step back and say you believe in what you're doing, you believe in what you're going to do, and that's how you're going to go forward with it. But so far as difficulties on it in particular, a lot of our difficulties actually turned out to be production difficulties. We had a weather day that had us flop a schedule. As a result of flopping the schedule, we lost our lead actor, one of our lead actors, and we had to cast another person the night before we were going to shoot. Like it was harrowing. And I think that the majority of our problems were functional ones that come up while you're shooting and while you're on set. And I happen to have a lot of experience from advertising and being on sets and having to be a problem solver for demanding clients. And I think that those pressures and those problems that came up were in many ways almost the easiest things to deal with because several of us on this production were from advertising backgrounds and we just knew how to deal with it. We just knew how to overcome it and keep going. And as you were saying, like it's really important to just remember, like you've got a thing to do that day. You want to get everybody on board and keep them going with it. So you just work through those problems and you come up with solves. They don't materialize. You have to work on them and come up with what they are. But beyond that, the only other problem is the problem that everybody has, and it's just time. And if you don't make a schedule and carve out the time to do the thing you want to do, you're never going to get it done. And everybody involved in this, even though it was a long process, carved out the time, made the dedication, worked on it, and didn't mind when My writer producer Dan is here right now. Didn't mind when Dan and I said, "Hey, can you please do this?" for like the second or third time, and we did. So I think so functional for our problems more than anything else. Everything else just felt like it came together.
Yes, so the challenges that we encountered during the filmmaking process were, of course, through budget constraints because it was a micro budget short film. But we were able to work around that because my producer was very keen on negotiating deals such as camera sponsorship from Area Rental. We shot on the Area Alexa camera, Alexa Mini camera, and also through budget constraints, the director sometimes has to wear many different hats in independent filmmaking. So I found myself driving the equipment truck, that was an experience that was exhausting because I had to be of course, I wanted to drive the equipment truck because everything was in my name, but so I felt that responsibility, but I wouldn't recommend it because ideally you want to concentrate, you want to have the energy to focus on the creative process solely, the director on production days. But it was successful in the end, and I knew in independent filmmaking you have to wear different hats, and that's just one of the things you have to contend with in independent filmmaking. And but I had a great team, a great cast and crew, so it was successful in the end, and we worked around many of those challenges through just having our passion, having our determination to fight through any challenges that we encounter.
Well, so, they tell you when you're in school and they're not lying, that if you ever make a film, it will be the hardest thing you've ever done. And that's true. But this one was the easiest thing I've ever done. The production was so smooth. It is definitely coming from the ad agency side that, makes things very, very difficult. Where here it was just like, I can make a decision and then move on. So yeah, it was great. I mean, everything just went, we didn't really have any big problems. I mean, I think the biggest problem was that, and this would catch a lot of people off guard, it's kind of strange, right? Because we started this film as kind of an experiment. So it was completely written by AI, it was scored by AI, and so that was sort of a thing that we were just doing it as an experiment, and then it turned into something much bigger. But by doing that, it did create a couple things where you're like trying to tell it, hey, you need to make this a 15-minute short, and it needs to be small, and we need to not have too many characters. And then it puts in like scenes that we're not expecting that are much bigger. And one of those is like these chambers and things like that. So trying to figure out how to do that was not easy, but someone came up with the idea of just getting an old tanning bed, and that ended up working out really well. So we just shot on like a crude green screen, the tanning bed, and then the rest of the scenes and stuff were filled together with the AI technology. And then a little bit on that, it's just like, I have a visual effects background. I've been doing visual effects for a very long time, and most of the films I direct, it's because I'm being hired as a multimedia director to handle the visual effects, so that afterwards I can put it all together. Well, AI has slowly been taking my job away on that front, and so I'm trying to bring it into the other sectors of what I do, and it's actually really opened things up for us. And this short wouldn't have been able to happen without it. But yeah, so again, it was different kinds of challenges, but as it relates to just typical production, it was super smooth.
So it sounds like whatever the challenge is, whether it be time constraints or whether effects casting or budget, adaptability is the best trait for a director to cultivate to really move forward and keep the ball rolling. So thanks for sharing. My next question, What advice or strategies do you have for aspiring filmmakers? And if that feels too big of a question, I have a bigger one for you. What is the best advice pertaining to filmmaking you've ever received?
First, so I never get time to like think about that.
That's why I sat down here.
Advice, you said advice to aspiring filmmakers, right?
Sure.
I would say, I mean, I know a lot of people say it, and it's easier said than done, but like you really just have to make your stuff, like just be proactive in whether you're like a writer or you're a director or whatever it is that you want to do, just be proactive in trying to do it. I mean, we do work in an industry that I feel sometimes you have to wait for somebody to give you an opportunity, which sucks. And I don't think the industry does have to be like that. But be as proactive as you can. Whatever is in your capacity to do, go ahead and try to do it for sure. Because there's so many people that like to consider themselves one thing or the other, but they're too afraid to like fail, for one. They're too afraid to fail. And then they're also afraid of not reaching a potential that that's in their head, I have to be Ryan Coogler or Barry Jenkins or something like that. When you can, even if you were to be that person, you can never be that person if you don't take that first step and just make it whatever it is you need to make. I know a lot of people that want to be writers and they don't write. And they could be good writers. There's a bunch of people who aren't writers that are making a bunch of like really bad stuff. They're like writing every day. So yeah, don't sit on your potential because you're afraid or you have something in your head that it can't even be possible if you don't take that first step.
First and foremost, I could not possibly second everything you just said. It's so incredibly true. But I do think that the question is, it's a very personal question. And I will say some of the things that I've done that have helped me, but they helped me. It doesn't mean it necessarily help anybody else. So I'm going to try to answer it anyway.
Preliminary warning. It might not help.
I think first is, and I kind of touched on it earlier, is you got to figure you out, and you gotta make time for the thing you want to do. There's just no other way around it. That for some people, taking a class or a workshop is the best way to do it. You've paid for it. You're going to show up. And if you're a writer, you're going to show up with pages, and if you don't, you're going to sit there reading everybody else's. Do you want to do that? Do you want to go take a workshop and read everybody else's pages, or do you want to have them read yours? And that is the kind of thing that some people, myself included, have to do to do it. I pay for it. I make myself guilty, and then I work on it. But I just try to make that systematic. I put time on my schedule. I figure out when it is. I've got kids and all the other things that people have, and the only way to do it is to just carve out the time, figure it out, and sit down and do it. I do want to say one thing about AI, though. AI could have the ability to make every one of us 10 times creatives. Like, we have to think about it like that. We cannot be angry at it about what it's doing or what it's taking. We cannot be frustrated with it because those things don't get you anywhere. Just like not writing down words on a page is not going to get you to a finished script. So let the things that are out there augment what you're doing. Don't be afraid of AI. Look at it and say, how's it going to make me a 10x creative? How's it going to help me do 10 other jobs in doing something? So I think it's really like very personal and dedication. I also, for whatever reason, for me, when I travel, I think I'm like away from my kids and my family, and I can wake up in a hotel room and write, and I get so much done when I'm sitting in a hotel room. I don't know why. I've even thought about just like traveling randomly, like, telling everyone I've got to go out of town, and then sit in a hotel room and write for advice, simple as it is, keep going. There just really isn't other advice than keep going. And you have to apply that to whatever the thing is within what it is, whether it's the directing thing or your shoot day, or it's the script, or it's anything else. It's just keep going. And I had from advertising, working with some very well-known directors, working on the creative side, working with other directors. It's the same thing that they say too. They just say keep going.
Would you advise people to hide from their kids? In terms of time?
I would advise them to hide from my kids. My daughter's an adorable terrorist. I hide from her, and I'm very proud.
So the advice that I have for other filmmakers and aspiring directors includes one, focus on developing and honing your craft, and also have a personal mission. Knowing your why will get you through many challenging and uncertain times, and also build your network, be a great collaborator, all of those things. Go to film festivals, apply for grants, work through the rejection that you may encounter through your trajectory, but just keep going, like he said. There are a lot of grants out there. I received a grant from New York State Council on the Arts to support my filmmaking project, the celebration, and that really helped a lot. In addition to engaging executive producers, so explore all those avenues. And the best advice that I've received as a filmmaker has been from Spike Lee, who was my professor at NYU Film School, which may sound reductive, but it was very poignant. Make films, whatever it takes. Just continue to make films. And I think that I understood that to mean that we just have to have the grit and the discipline to keep going despite whatever challenges that we encounter, to just keep creating. So that's what I've tried to do.
Great. I'm going to echo a little bit of what was said about AI. So I have my niece, she's in school right now, she's studying film. My sister's in marketing, and she's a writer. And so I guess I'll tell you what I told them exactly, which was like, this is coming. This AI stuff is the real deal. It is way better than we think, and it's going to be way better than we think it's going to be. Like doing this little experiment was me pissed off because I like to write things, but also just embracing it. I had a professor who told me, like, a lot of my professors were like, no, keep shooting this on film when I was in film school. And digital is stupid, it looks horrible, like no one will ever take that serious. I had one professor that was like, this is the next thing. Like, learn this. This digital is real. You're gonna be able to edit your own stuff. You won't have to find an editor. And so that's what I did, and then that's sort of how I got into commercial work, is because I can direct, but also I edit and I can do multiple jobs. AI is doing that way faster and just doing all the same stuff. And the fact that now we have like full-on productions, and I'm doing these like real big. I'm working on $1 million job right now, and it's got tons of AI in it. So it is a real thing, and I'm telling everyone that will listen that's younger is like, use it. It's now you can make a film. Like, there's no more like, oh, they won't let me into Hollywood, or oh, I don't have a rich uncle, all that stuff. It's like, no, now you can just go make one. And we're all seeing wonderful, like amazing films on YouTube that are shot on iPhones, and it's only getting better. Do not be afraid of it. Do not get pissed off at it. Do not say, oh, it's stealing work. Oh, it's just recycled garbage. It's just another tool. And if you know how to use the tool, you're going to go to do great things. So I think the future is just going to be way more creatives, way more directors, way more writers, way more than what we're seeing right now. I mean, way more content. But I think it's like, it's turning into, it's like a pencil. and a piece of paper, and now anyone can be a writer. Where now I feel like, well, now anyone can be a filmmaker. So, embrace the technology, don't be afraid of it, and just from what I've seen and coming from a visual effects background and having access to some of the newer models of AI, this is a for real thing. I mean, it's a little overhyped, but I think the future of where it's going to be is underhyped. And so I would definitely tell anyone who would listen that's younger to embrace it. And that's what I'm doing, because I know the kids in school right now are all making their own AI films. And they're going to just run us all over if I don't jump into.
Also, I don't think I answered your second question. The best advice I've ever gotten was, or at least the one that stands out in my head, was from a film professor. When I was a freshman, and he was just like, the only thing that matters is a finished film. So that just brings in my head constantly throughout my career.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that comment.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
The best advice that I got was from my professor when I was a freshman, and he said the only thing that matters is a finished film. So just echoing what people have said about seeing your project through, nothing matters unless it's able to be showcased.
Thank you. And as directors, we can work on our projects forever, right? It never fully feels done. So to that point, it's really important to at some point say, this is as good as it will be, and it's time for the world to see it. So before we get to Q&A, I'd like to ask you guys individual questions. We'll start with Stephen though, so you can have a break. Heard you, listened. So Stephen, with The Hollowing, I'm wondering, because your script was written by AI, it's your job as a director to bring it to life. And what was the message that you were trying to convey?
Well, the first thing we noticed is like, this is shit. This is, so massaging it to get it something good. But then we also wanted to be able to say, like, these lines were written by AI. This story, it comes up with this really cool scene where the girlfriend or wife, we're not quite sure, she finds out that her husband's using her toothbrush and she's like disgusted by it. Like they get into this big fight, and I love that because I'm like, that's such a real thing, and so it would surprise me at certain moments, but we had to massage it for sure, and then we also gave it a log line, so that's where it starts. Like we had a couple log lines, give us a couple ideas for these log lines, and then you just slowly build it out from there.
You input the log line.
I inputted a log line, and then everything else that came out of it, with the exception of the shits and fucks that our actors put in, came right out of there. So yeah, and it was, again, it was surprising, but what's good about it is minimal dialogue, and you tell it all this stuff, right? So it was like minimal dialogue, small location, I only want 3 actors, that kind of stuff. But you also know that like it wrote one sentence, and now I'm gonna make that a whole scene, right? So there was a lot of, like, if we just did what was on the paper, it would have been really bad. But now when I look at it, I say to myself, I love the way this looks. I love the actors. I love everything about it. And the worst thing about it is the script, which makes sense. But I think that, like I love the music, and that's just something that, we weren't even going to do at first. And it did a great job with that. So, and, a few scenes that are really great. But it was sort of, it's up to the actor to then make it something special. It's up to us designing like a cool environment for the people to be in, that makes it good, that makes it better. And I feel if I didn't have such a talented cast and crew, and we just put together some scripts and we didn't know what we were doing, it would have came out like dog shit. So, it still has a lot of us, a lot of what we all love, the human aspect in the film, and you can
see that.
You can leave the mic with Mike,
Okay.
and I'll project. So my question for you, your short is, well, actually, no, you have a background in documentary film, don't you? Okay, so I want to ask you about that. How has your experience in documentary filmmaking informed your work with narrative short film directing?
That's a good question. Yes, I have a background in documentary filmmaking. My first directorial debut was a documentary called 25 to Life, which was supported by Sundance Institute and Ford Foundation back in 2014. Since then, I've been trying to transition to narrative filmmaking, and I've made several shorts. So that documentary has informed my narrative filmmaking practice because it is really infusing that authenticity from documentary filmmaking into narrative filmmaking that I found to be key. Alfred Hitchcock has a quote that goes something I think like this, that in feature filmmaking, the director God is the director, but in documentary filmmaking, the director is God. So that's just a way of saying that there's more controlled environment in narrative filmmaking. So that's what I gravitated towards. Something that was more controlled, where you can deal with, where you can cast the actors and not have as many variables. In documentary filmmaking, there are a lot of variables, but you can, at the end of the day, it's about making a powerful story, and that's across the board. But in documentary filmmaking, there are a lot of variables, and it's not as, you're dealing with real life and real people, so even if you have a script, there's still some uncontrolled things that may happen. So that's why I gravitated towards narrative filmmaking, but I still wanted to carry that authenticity to carry over into my narrative filmmaking practice. So that's was the bridge for me.
Alright, and this is for Andy. So, with your film, Driven Out, it has a very clean look to it. The visuals are quite striking, and I'm wondering, how did you come to the decision of how your film would look as a director? What did those conversations with the DP and the production designer sound like?
Thank you for the question. So the story on the page was really fascinating to me. It's a film about getting even, about revenge. And the characters in it have to be, you want to get revenge on somebody, great. Well, if you want to get revenge on somebody in this world, you got to be complicit. You got to be a part of it. You have to be active. You don't just go hire someone. You push that revenge on someone, and you have to be a part of bringing them down into this world that they devolve into. And to me, I had this idea that I put into the treatment that was what was happening to the main character was his life was getting rearranged. And when I had this idea of rearrangement, I was really excited about it. And I told Dan, writer and producer, about it. And he was like, yeah, cool. What else? And I thought, what if we just applied rearrangement to every single element of the film? So the home that the main character lives in, things start getting rearranged in his home as he devolves down. The score, I purposefully wrote all this into the treatment, that the score would have a theme that would get rearranged throughout the film, that would fall apart, that would go to its minor key from its major key. And then by the end, it's still the same notes, but in just a different distorted order. And I thought, what can we do with that visually? And I was reading about how the human eye works, that when we look at things, like our brain processes it, and you kind of hold the image for like 6 or 7 seconds. That's why when you walk into a dark room, your eyes need to adjust. It's your brain that's trying to figure out how to adjust to this scene. And when you walk out into a bright light, you can do that. You have to adjust to it, and your eyes and your brain figure these things out and send these signals, but it's not a constant loop. It happens over time. So I thought, what if we just applied that visually? That what if the main character's world is bright and full of life, but by the end it is desaturated. So we did it in stages in our color correct and made our color grade as much a part of the concept of the film as anything else. So the color just fell apart from the beginning to the end. And it's really not noticeable because we figured out how to time it, that you don't pick up on it, but if you get to the end and we're able to go back to the beginning, you're like, whoa, this is two different films. We also dressed the main actor in neutral colors. So you're looking at this main character and your eyes adjusted to him and you're not picking up that the rest of the world falls apart and degrades down with it. So that was all in the treatment. And when we brought that treatment to the partners that we had to make this, everyone was like, yes, let's figure that out. So the DP was excited about trying to figure out how to have that happen. We had a colorist, like how many times is a colorist excited about working with something? It's like, they put that concept in, they put it in the treatment, the colorist looked at it and was like, oh, great, okay, that's cool, that feels like something that's gonna go on my reel. And that was the reaction we got from everybody, music, editorial, everyone. And we put it into the graphics of the film, but the title cards fall apart, they get rearranged. We just put it everywhere. I think when you have an idea like that, you can put into a script that's so well written to begin with, it just unlocks how you want to make it look, and it almost guides itself a little bit.
I really appreciate your answer because the intentionality, those little micro decisions that a director makes, that's not necessarily in the script, it enhances the story so much more, and it shines through on screen whether an audience can pick up on it or not. So, well done.
Thank you.
And my last question before we open it up. So David, with Hello Goodbye, the story relies on really the relationship between these two characters, and then in real life, they're actors. So how as a director do you foster such an intimate dynamic between the two? One man is essentially giving his life over to the other. How do you encourage chemistry on screen?
I think with this project in particular, what I was the most proud of kind of getting right in regards to like all the other stuff I've done in the past was definitely the casting. And the two leads that I casted for this were just, they were just perfect. So to kind of get to the answer, I really didn't do much on set. They had it, they didn't like meet prior or anything like that. Just saw them in the auditions, and there were other great people who auditioned, but again, just what I got right was getting the two of them, these two are definitely gonna work well on set with each other. But yeah, it was unfortunate. They were really talented. I would have loved to kind of like even play around more just on set and do other things. But given the time that we had, I, for the most part, took what they gave me. I think there were instances like here and there where I might have stepped in and I like said one word and like got what I needed in the next take. Again, just a testament to how talented they were. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to do a lot of directing in that sense, which I'm always looking forward to. But they had it. They were really good. The style that the approach that I take to directing actors is all about intentions. I learned that in film school. When you're in school, you have to take acting classes and stuff like that, regardless of if you want to be a performer or not. But the professor that I had definitely left an impact on me on how I would approach directing and even writing in the future. Like just a little thing, she was like, I don't like punctuate besides periods and all the regular stuff in screenplays. And before I was doing exclamation marks and all these other things. So even just a little thing like that affected me moving forward. So I definitely just try to use intentions, one word intentions, and see what I get from there. But yeah, my actors were really great. They, what they gave me, like I said, I had to do little to kind of sculpt it. And over the years, I learned to embrace what the actors are bringing instead of trying to make them into something that they're probably not. So, yeah.
Sometimes it just happens and magic does it on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we're gonna open it up to the audience. Yes.
My question is directed to Mike. In your bio for the event, I think it mentioned something about your philosophy of making great filmmaking is combining art, intellectual engagement, and entertainment. Can you elaborate more on the intellectual engagement part?
Sure. I think the question was, could I elaborate more on the quote in my bio about intellectual engagement in filmmaking? So every director, filmmaker has their own approach. My approach is really to promote the complexity, center usually Black people and marginalized groups, and explore the complexity of the human condition. So that's the intellectual part, I think, is really just unraveling and just unpacking the complexity, trying to, of the human experience, and trying to basically evoke empathy and compassion and introspection into the human experience, but using all the visual language and visual tools of filmmaking to do that. So that's really informs my approach.
Next question.
I'm really curious about the AI, and I would love to learn about it. What would you suggest? Where to begin? Which, I don't know, artificial intelligence modules or ChatGPT or whatever. Where to start? And just another thing, I was curious. When the AI is writing the script, does it come with the full dialogues, or you have to fill in a lot of it, or how was it?
That's a tricky one because it's so new, right? Like, I actually give a lot of talks on AI right now within the ad agency realm, and I just speak to it about where it currently is, and I even tell them like I'm not an expert. There is no experts. It's that new, but I dedicate about an hour of my day every morning trying to read up on the newest papers and things like that. But if you just start following the right people, and that can be, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on, YouTube, and you just start watching a lot of these things, you'll hear about certain papers and things, and then go a step further. Like, don't just start reaching out, reach out to OpenAI, reach out to and let them know that you're an artist and that you love this kind of technology because it's giving you more tools and more abilities, and just try to, get a little bit of an in. So, by me doing talks, I've been able to meet other people that are actually building things that are AI related. So they will give me access to things or spark ideas of where to find other things. Now I kind of lucked out because I was doing visual effects already. But yeah, I mean, and I tell people just do it. Everyone knows ChatGPT. Just go in there and start using it. See what it can do, and if it surprises you somewhere, see where that takes you, and then generate an image just from whatever. It could be the cheapest models out there right now, and just mess around with it enough, and that would then start sparking ideas. I'm like, oh wait, okay, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. So yeah, just it's like any research. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people, and they say this works, will go on to the newest model of a ChatGPT and just say, where can I learn about this? And then it gives them a list, and it will give them the top YouTube users that explain things. It will give them the top imaging programs, the top video generators, all that kind of things. And it is usually pretty good. I mean, it's a little out of date, but it's a great place to start.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm sure that these amazing directors will answer any questions when we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you, Kelly, for moderating. We have one last directors panel, which is going to start in just a couple minutes. So So please stick around for that as well. Thank you.